Live. Hello, everybody. It's me, Mama D. I hope everybody's good. We're going to open up the comments. I hope everybody's good and had a lovely Saturday and a very relaxing Sunday and are prepared for me and my nonsense. Mhm. But there's not so much nonsense today. Today I have a lovely guest. Let me see if I can. Marisa Ferrera. Hopefully I said it right.
Close, close. It's Marisa.
Marisa. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
at least I didn't butcher the last name because
Yeah.
I have a friend whose name is Ferrera, spelled a little differently, and he's like, "You're never gonna get it." And I've known him for so many years. He's like, "You're never gonna get it." I said, "I will." I wrote it down whenever he
Yeah.
talked. I kind of started to write
Yeah.
it down. So, Marisa, thank you very much for agreeing to be on my show. Let's see if I can get my information here. There we go. Marisa is an empowerment coach and mentor who is a passionate about helping men and women with different situations. There you go. You are also a best-selling author of Magnify Your Magnificence, The Pathway to Life and Relationships You Truly Desire. I probably read that wrong, but
It was
everybody's
close.
used to that.
It was close.
That's why I do live and not print. I don't
No problem.
but tell everybody who don't know you, which I'm sure there are going to be a few. Oops, we got 6 people in the chat room already.
All right.
Hey,
All
Ken.
right. Hello, everyone. I can't see who's there, so I'll have to check later. I can't see anybody.
So those people who don't know you, introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Marisa Ferrera, and I am originally from Ontario, Canada. And my husband and I currently live in the beautiful country of Colombia, South America. We chose to leave Canada because it's too cold and we like the warmer weather. So we absolutely love it here. And you want me to talk about my work as well or personal?
Whatever this is your show. You talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Well, as you mentioned, I work with men and women, and my focus is primarily on helping them with challenging family relationships. I don't know about you, but I don't think I've met too many people that don't struggle with one or more family relationships, right? And it's hard because it's family, right? If it's other relationships, sometimes we can just choose to leave them, but we're not that quick at deciding to leave family members. We want to make it work. So I help them specifically in learning how to create healthy boundaries and to be able to stand in their power so that, they can create the relationships that they want. It's kind of aligned with my book, but come from a place of really authentically communicating from their heart. Because people say, well, you can authentically communicate and be really nasty, and that's true. So that's not the idea. We want to make sure that the communication is coming from your heart, because it's a lot more likely that it'll be well received.
And it's true. It's easier to say no to people who are not family than it is to say no to family. Because if it's a friend or an acquaintance, you could just like, no, not really. But you don't get to see them every day. Like if I say no to my sister, she's used to by now. But if I say no to my sister before, it'd be like I would feel like she's my sister, she's my baby sister, I can't say no. I'm going through conversations in my head. I don't want her to be mad at me. It's like, so yeah, that's something that's not an easy thing to deal with. I mean, the general public is difficult enough. So when you have issues with saying no and setting boundaries with family, I can just imagine.
Yeah, and a lot of people feel, like you said, they're afraid of hurting the other person's feelings, being rejected. Sometimes they're afraid of also being criticized and judged, because many times when we say no, we're told we're selfish and we don't care about them. So people make up all kinds of meaning about what's going on, and so it's not easy. But once we are able to say no to family and really get our needs met, it becomes a lot easier to say no to other people as well.
I'm not ignoring you. I go to Facebook here and make sure that the live is feed properly.
Is it working? So, I did a Facebook live in my Facebook community once, and the words I found out afterwards that I was cutting in and out, and I had no idea that was happening because I couldn't see the comments. So you never know with technology what's happening. So it's always good to check.
And the thing is, if we don't try, we never know. So at least, even if people don't get it all, they will at least get parts of it. And my way of thinking is they'll get the part that's meant for them to get.
That's a good way of looking at it. Absolutely. I love that.
Well, we have 7 people in the chat room. So far, it's Kendra, Josie, Nita. Hopefully, I've got that name right, and Jacqueline Gravel, who's my neighbor. She's always stalking me.
Oh, excellent. Well, if anybody has any specific questions that they want to ask me, since you can see the comments and I can't, feel free to post them. What do you find most challenging about saying no, standing up for yourself, anything like that? I'd be happy to answer.
Is it? Do people find? Okay, I'm gonna ask questions sometimes that I kind of sort of
Sure,
know the answer to, but there's people out there who are like,
sure, sure.
Um, what is it more difficult to when it comes to family members? Who is it more difficult for you to say no to? Saying no to a parent or saying no to a child?
Well, that's a really good question. It really
Yeah.
depends because with parents, especially if they're aging parents, it becomes
Hmm.
harder for people to say no because there's a lot more feelings of guilt that's kind of connected with it, especially if parents are very needy and asking for a lot of support from you. You don't want to say no because you know they need the help. So that's really difficult. And then with adult children, are you talking about adult children or younger children? Because I work mostly with people with adult children that might have difficulty with boundaries with their
Yeah,
adult
for
children.
me, I'd say in late teens on
Yeah,
up, because I
yeah,
mean, all parents have an issue with saying no to their little child who looks so
yes,
cute and adorable, and they want what
yes,
they want, but
of
when
course.
they have, they can, so
But the thing
that
is
helps.
that one way that can make it easier is to, as a parent, and I'm not a parent, but I used to be a school teacher for a number of years. So I
I
dealt
thought
with
you were.
a lot of children from, preschool to grade 8. And I worked with a lot of parents as well who had some difficulty with their kids through those different stages.
Mhm.
And the thing is that as a parent, saying no to a child, again, not in an authoritative way, like just like you're the boss and they just have to listen to you because you're the parent, because that doesn't really teach them anything except that when I get bigger, I can do that to people too, right? So it's always good to, let them be in on, why you're saying no. But as you're saying no to them and they're understanding the reasons behind it, you're also teaching them how to say no so that you're modeling for them, because it's important for us. Yes, we want to have our needs met, but it's not to have the expectation that everybody's going to give us everything we want because we're asking for it. That's an
Yeah.
unrealistic expectation, and you're setting yourself up for a lot of pain and suffering, right?
That's true.
So as far as whether it's easier or harder with adults, or sorry, with your parents or with your kids, it really depends on your relationship with each of them and how it's
Exactly.
progressed over the years, right? Because it can be difficult for both.
Yeah, it can
So it
be.
really depends on the situation. And also with children, with the teenagers, if they've got a lot of challenges. I've worked, with parents that, might have a child that's got some emotional or mental illness. So it's really difficult for them to know where to draw the boundary in terms of how much support to give their child, so that the child feels supported. But sometimes when you give too much, you're actually enabling them to
Mm.
be dependent on you. So you have to really listen to your inner guidance, is what I tell people all the time, because intuitively, if you really pay attention, when no is the most loving choice for
Yeah.
you and for the person you're saying no to.
Yeah, because you can't always. Okay, we have a question in the chat room. Hang on a second. All right, let's see, did it work? Yes. I don't find it from Kendra. I don't find it hard to say no at all, but I know my daughter has a hard time saying no to people.
Okay, well, that's interesting. It'd be interesting to know how old the daughter is. But one thing that I often say to people is to ask a lot of questions, because maybe try to find out what's going on inside your daughter that's having her afraid of saying no. What's stopping her from saying no? What is she afraid of being rejected? Like what kinds of things
Mhm.
are going on? Because when you know what's underneath the surface, then you can deal with supporting her in moving through that. Because what I find in working with my clients is that the reason people have trouble saying no is often tied to some core wounds, past wounds that have just not been healed. And
Yeah.
so, the first steps I take people through is uncovering what those core wounds are that are getting in the way of saying no. And then once you know what they are, you need to heal those wounds. So we go through different processes of healing. And then you can create boundaries that you're able to actually honor even when there's conflict and drama, because sometimes people will say, okay, that's it. I've had enough. I'm going to lay down the line and I'm going to be strong and courageous and I'm going to start saying no. And so they start to say no. And then the family member that's used to them saying yes all the time just, lashes out and starts throwing stuff at them that's not very pleasant to hear. And all of a sudden they slip right back into the saying yes again, because they haven't healed from those wounds to allow them to hear what this person is saying, but not let it pierce their heart, right? Because that's the thing. If we hear somebody lashing out at us and we're feeling more hurt, more disappointed, more saddened by it, then that means we haven't healed whatever it's connected to, and it's just adding to that pain. But once you've healed from it, people can say anything to you. And it's not about building a wall. And that's something else I really want to point out, because boundaries is not about putting a brick wall in front of you so that, you stay on this side and they stay there and nobody's going to hurt me ever again. That's not very healthy, because when you do that, you don't just cut off the negative stuff that might be coming your way. You're also cutting off love. It can't come in either, right? So it's
Deborah Jo in the chat room said, took me almost 60 years to learn that one.
Yeah, exactly. It took me many years too. I'm up there in those ages too. But it's never too late. It's never too late. And with children or young adults, it's great to model it for them, because they've got a lot of years ahead of them. So if they can learn how to recognize what's stopping them from saying no, being a people pleaser, then they can start taking steps towards healing from all of that and standing in their power. Because when we stand in our power and people witness that, they see what's possible for them too. So you can be a demonstration of what's possible, even if they're not liking it, because you're saying no to them, right? And the people that don't like it the most are the ones that have been benefiting the most from you saying yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I mean, doesn't that make sense? If you're always giving a particular person what they ask for all the time because you're afraid of whatever, and then all of a sudden you start to say no, they're not going to like it. And that's okay, and that's why I created a free guide. Oh, let's see, what does Deborah Jo say? I grew up to know and place boundaries, even though I know some will see it as a grudge. Yes, absolutely. And the thing is, if other people see it as a grudge or get upset or angry about it, the important thing to recognize is that it has nothing to do with you. You didn't cause them to be upset. You didn't cause that. They're upset because of whatever's going on inside of them, their own unhealed wounds, right? And one thing I often say to clients too is, it's kind of like, if you cut open an orange or you squeeze an orange, you get orange juice out of it. You're not going to get watermelon juice out of an orange. And it's the same when people push our buttons and squeeze us. What comes out is what's there. They didn't put it there. So that's why I often talk about how conflict is actually an opportunity to heal and can actually bring you closer together with people. Because when you're feeling conflicted, when you feel hurt or disappointed by somebody, what they say, what they do, what they don't say that you wanted them to say, what they don't do that you wanted them to do, right? When you really pay attention to your own feelings and your own triggers, then those are really valuable clues that point you in the direction of your own healing. So that's why we can actually look at the blessing of somebody who upsets us. And so with other people, when they're upset by us saying no, we can be compassionate with them and recognize that they're upset for their own internal reasons. It's not because you're saying no, it's what they're making it all mean, right? They might be making it mean you're saying no because you don't love me. I mean, how many times have people heard, well, if you really loved me, fill in the blank, right? Or if you really cared about me, fill in the blank. Well, that's called conditional. And we talk about unconditional love, but what is that? It's love without conditions. It's so you can, when somebody says that, you can say, I do love you, and I'm still not going to do X, Y, or Z, because my love for you is not connected to me doing things for you, even if that's their view of the world. So sometimes it's, helping, well, first we have to be able to shift our own perception on things, right? But once we're able to do that for ourselves, then you can support others in doing that too. And that's why the work has to start with you. So if you're having problems with relationships in families, A lot of people will say, well, if my mother would only stop doing whatever, or if my husband would start whatever, that's
Mhm.
putting an expectation on something outside of you that you have no control over. You can only control your own choices, right? So it has to come back to you. Sorry, I missed that last
That's okay.
that
Just
last.
a quick one. Deborah Joe, that you answered to, she said, to be specific, I place boundaries around the toxic narcissism.
Absolutely. And it's amazing how many people are dealing with narcissism. And I
Yeah.
suspect it appears as if this is something like new in terms of like how prominent it is. But I think
Yeah,
it's been around for a very long time. It just didn't have that label
yeah,
maybe,
exactly.
or
And we didn't talk about it.
we didn't talk about it. And people were it's hard to talk about because a lot of people don't know what to do with it.
Exactly. It's like,
But
how
I'm
can
really
you
glad
allow
that,
somebody to, yeah.
sorry, what were you saying?
It's like somebody else said, well, how can you allow that person to do that? You're a strong person, but it's a situation. Each person is different. Each situation is different. So yeah.
Yeah, the thing is with narcissism is that the narcissist eats away at the other person's identity and feelings of self-worth. And it's, even if you think you're confident in whatever, they just have a way of getting into your head. I don't know if that makes any sense, but you start to doubt yourself. And so you think you are the problem. And then, of course, they also have a way of manipulating the people around you, your friends, that you share, and
Yeah,
sometimes even your
exactly.
own family members. They're very good at making it look like you're the crazy one. And
Hmm.
so you don't have the support system. So how it's very easy to fall into that trap of staying and thinking there is something wrong with you and you just have to fix something. It's a
Yeah.
really problem. But the boundaries are really critical because one thing again, I think that's really important is to focus on self and really connect with your true self, the self that you might have forgotten who you are because of either the narcissist or even in some cases just your upbringing. I mean, many of us have been brought up in dysfunctional families. I grew up in a dysfunctional family. There was a lot of emotional and physical abuse. And, growing up, I was terrified all the time. I would go to sleep at night and put covers over my head and, pray that my father would die so we'd feel safe. I mean, that sounds horrible. But I went from
But for a
there.
child, it's not.
Well, it
Yeah.
was scary because I never knew if my mother would be dead or alive when I woke up in the morning. So there's all this anger going on, right? And
Yeah.
it would also project that onto us. But over time, when I started doing my own healing work, because obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but for me, I really shut down. Like I just shut down. And that was just my coping mechanism, become invisible, keep quiet, don't speak because that was the safest thing to do. So it took me a lot of years of working on myself and getting some professional support to really uncover what was really going on and healing some of my own wounds. But the beauty of it is that through that process, I was able to heal from the past, all the pain and everything, and develop the self-confidence and self-esteem that I didn't have. But the most important part, and the part that I'm just most grateful for, is that I was able to come to a place of genuine and true love for my father, because I
Mhm.
was able to really understand what was going on for him, uh, and recognize that he didn't have the tools. He had no idea. He did what he did. He thought he was doing to raise his three daughters like in the best way, to give them the best chance at life. And I used to say to people, my dad would like die for us to give us everything to have a better life. And yet I was afraid he was going to kill us. Like, I mean, that just seems so ridiculous, right? That he would die for me, but then I felt like he would kill me if I, crossed the line or whatever.
Yeah.
But to be able
Because
to
he wasn't
feel,
seeing it the way you did.
yeah, he
Yeah.
didn't understand. And he had his own history of abuse, and it was just,
Yeah, because
ancestral.
it's a learned thing sometimes. It's
It
not,
is.
it doesn't just start poof all of a sudden. There's something behind it.
Yeah, exactly.
Tiffany in the chat room says, this explains a lot about the situation I'm having with my brother. A situation I didn't create, but I'm the recipient of his anger.
Yes, and that's what happens is people will project their anger onto a target. In this case, it's the sister. And so what I would suggest is that if you can see your brother as somebody who's in pain, because people that are happy and, just having a great life and really, feeling blessed, they extend that kind of energy out to other people. So when somebody's projecting anger or criticism or judgment, then that tells us something about what's going on inside of them. But we can't see that if we're triggered in our own pain surfaces, because then we're just dealing with our own stuff. But when you're able to actually see, wow, that's not about me, even though they're making it all about you, pointing fingers and all, right? But if you can recognize that it's not about you, it's about their own unhealed wounds, then you're able to be more compassionate because you can see their inner child that's suffering. We can't do that if our own inner child is suffering and screaming for attention and for love. We can't give it. So it's really important to be able to heal yourself. But as you're healing, it doesn't mean you have to wait till you're completely healed before you can support anybody else, because it's a journey, right? But with the brother, you can try to find out what's really going on with the anger. And the boundary is about, you can say to somebody, I can tell you're really angry right now, and that's okay, because emotions are fine. But what's not okay is for you to be yelling at me, if that's how he's projecting the anger. That's creating the boundary, right?
Her comment is, I do see him in pain, unfortunately. I feel so bad for him, but it's not something I can fix for him.
No, absolutely.
Which is really, I think, half the battle is that she realizes that's not something that she can fix.
Right. And I like to get away from the fixing, because that it's a perception that people are broken. And I don't think we're broken. I think we've just kind of lost touch with who we are. And we've bought into a lot of lies. We're living our life based on, conditions, wounds that have caused limiting beliefs and fears and all that kind of stuff. So it's not about being broken. It's about helping to become more aware. Because as we become more aware of who we are, we recognize that we were never broken. We've just lost touch with the truth. Yeah. And we can't help somebody else come to their own truth. But through our own example, others see that. Your family members will see, as you start to heal and start showing up different in your relationships, they start to witness that. And it starts to rub off. Now, in the end, sometimes, and people don't like to hear but sometimes it is the healthiest choice for you to step aside and not be in relationship with a family member, even if it's temporary. And I've done that before. When I knew I had a big issue with a family member, there was a major trigger and upset, and I knew, okay, I have some more healing work to do around this, but I can't do it while I'm still in communication with this person. I can't. I just knew that I didn't have the strength to be able to maintain my own peace if we were still in communication. So I communicated with this family member and I said, I love you. I care about our relationship. And I know, based on what happened, 2 days ago or whatever, I need to do some more inner healing work before I will be strong enough to continue this relationship. So I don't want you calling me. I don't want any emails, chat messages, just no communication. And I will let you know when I'm ready to reconnect. And I took 6 months, but I didn't just take 6 months of not communicating with this family member and just went on with my life. I made it a priority to really work through what was going on for me. What was she triggering within me? And, because the trigger goes deep. And so even though I've been working on myself and going through this healing for over 40 years, it's like an onion. There's different layers. So every time we that's why people say sometimes, I thought I healed that already, and now I'm getting all upset about whatever. It's kind of like, yeah, you did heal it. It's don't discredit or discount the work that you've done. You did heal at that level, but now you're getting closer to the core, to the core, to the core. And so now my relationship is the best, better than it's ever been in over 60 years. So it's, it can work, but you can't wait for the other person to change, because they may never. So it's about being able to be in the presence of somebody who maybe doesn't treat you with respect or whatever, but knowing what you can say to stand in your power if they do treat you that way. So if this person says, starts treating me in a way that I'm not feeling honored or I'm not feeling good, instead of getting triggered and reacting like I would in the past, I can say, you know what? This isn't working for me. I am not okay with the way you're talking with me right now. So if you want to continue this conversation, you're going to need to tone it down and speak to me more lovingly, or speak to me with more respect, or you need to leave if the person's in my space, or I'll say, or I'm going to leave, or I'm going to end this conversation if it's a phone call. That's where standing in your power is. It's not about saying it with anger. Well, if you don't stop doing blah, 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 then you're just reacting out of your own pain. But if you can stand in your power and from your heart say, hey, this isn't okay, because you know when it's not okay. But sometimes we're afraid to speak if this person is very dominating. If this person has been, abusive towards you in the past, it's like hard to stand up. And it just made me think of a situation with my dad, actually, where my husband and I were going to be having, we'd been together for a while, and we didn't want to get married legally because we'd been married and divorced and the whole bit. But we wanted to have a celebration. So we decided to create our own, and we thought we'll call it a declaration of love and commitment ceremony. And we would invite our closest friends and family, and we would exchange vows, but it wouldn't be with like a legal ordained minister, but we'd have an officiant. But it was what we wanted. And so when I shared this with my father, he was totally against it. Now I'm in my 40s at this point, okay? It's not like I'm 18 years old, okay? But he was totally against it. And he was like, ripping me up one side and down the other, just totally criticizing me about all kinds of stuff. Anyways, at one point he said, I'm sorry, I don't want to hurt you, but, and I interjected because the whole time he was lashing out at me, I was not feeling any pain like the past. I'd already done the healing work, and I was actually, from my heart, sending him love, genuine, like energetic love. I was just saying, I know you're scared, Dad. You just think I'm making a mistake and you want the best for me. I love you. Everything's okay. I'm saying all these things inside my head, but sending them to him, from my heart. So when he said, I don't want to hurt you, but I just said, it's okay, Dad. You can't hurt me anymore, because he didn't have that power over me anymore. And that's when I really knew I had healed. And my husband, because you don't know what to call him, said later, he said, because he'd never seen my father like that. We'd been together for a few years, and my dad, if you were to meet him, he would be like a pussycat, like just everybody loved him, right? So he was like, he told me later, he said, I thought I was going to have to physically protect you. And I said, wow. I said, I wasn't the least bit threatened, because he's a big man. He passed away a few years ago, but 6 feet tall, like 250 some pounds. I'm a construction worker, okay? He's not this little. And my husband is like really thin. My dad could swat him across the room, with a finger. But it was just interesting to see the change, to go from to being terrified of this big man that I thought was a monster, as a child, to have him like really coming at me, and I was totally centered. I was totally in my power. I was in my, in a peaceful place. And that's why I know that it's possible. And he didn't do anything different, but because I started showing up different, the whole dynamic of our relationship changed. The energy shifted from that day forward. He never did come to the ceremony, and there was, other repercussions after that, but eventually things turned around, and he ended up, loving my husband like a son-in-law. Like they got along super, super well. So, people might say they have a really horrible relationship with somebody. And like I said, it might be the healthiest thing to separate from it temporarily or maybe permanently, but only you can decide that. But you can decide when you're in a healing place and you connect with your inner heart, because it will guide you. Your heart will always guide you. If you make a decision out of anger or fear, that's not coming from your centered place, from your heart. So it's harder to trust that. Does that make sense?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Lynn McIntosh says you have to be strong. You have to have strong boundaries.
Yes.
Don't be a softie with a narcissist. They are wounded people. Hurt people hurt.
Yes. Now, and hurt people is a quote that I shared with my Facebook community as well, because I wanted to, like, that's so true. Hurt people hurt people.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? They do. And they don't know how else to be.
Yeah. Deborah Joe, the woman that you were talking to,
Mhm.
she said, I tested him. It was her brother.
Okay,
Hang a second, if I can go back and find 62. Okay, because I'm not going to find the exact quote.
sure.
I can, I'm going to have a few
I
other
know there's
things I have
probably
to
a
figure
whole bunch
out.
of
Where
comments now, right? I'm looking forward to reading them all
There we
afterwards.
go. I tested him in a conversation. There we go. I
Oh,
tested
here we
him in a
go.
conversation where he was trying to push all my buttons, and I would just give him a one-word answer. Uh, in in the
And the
more,
more
and I
you, yeah,
didn't get
basically,
angrier, and the
you got
cooler he
mad
got.
more and more. It's true because they don't like that. They want to, they want you to bite the bait. But see,
Hmm.
with a lot of people, but especially with narcissists, if you go into defending yourself, they will eat you alive
Yep.
because they will find a piece of something you just said and latch onto it and just go down this road. But if you just stick to the facts, don't let your emotions get involved, stick to the facts, they don't know what to do with it. But when you're in a conversation, if they get more cruel and angrier and whatever, that's where you stand up and say, this is not okay. I will not allow you to treat me this way, and hang up, quit the chat, or whatever it is, and walk away
Yeah.
from it. The end result
And
not being.
the
Did you
end
want to read
result was
that?
for me not being, yeah, the end result for me was not being able to see my 3-year-old grandchild. Because this wasn't her brother, this was her son.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Because
okay.
his wife interjected, and I have met her twice and seen my granddaughter once. This resulted in a visit to the doctor's office for my entire anxiety medication for
Yeah,
for a few days to get a grip.
that is the toughest part. Is when family that you want to connect with are separated from you, and you can't do anything about it. And
Yeah,
again, it's, I mean, there's no easy answer for that. But the decision is about whether you can stand in that relationship with this person and allow them to abuse you is still not healthy for that grandchild to
yeah,
witness it,
exactly.
right? To allow that. But yeah, that's a tough thing with narcissism. They will, they don't stop at anything.
And sometimes they don't even. I believe not all, but some don't realize what they're doing
No,
because they've been doing it for so long, or this is how they were taught. They don't realize what they're doing until somebody has to kind of show them the mirror, and they have to stand in front of their own mirror to realize it. And sometimes that mirror is you stepping back from them.
yes, but a lot of times, even if you put the mirror up, they'll see a completely different reflection than the one you're wanting them to
Yeah.
see, right? And the thing is with narcissists, I believe it's a form of mental illness. It nobody of sound mind would go to the extremes that some narcissists go,
Yeah.
alienating. I mean, maybe you've heard of parent alienation syndrome, where when a parent, when there's a couple with kids and one of them chooses to leave the partnership, the marriage, end it,
Mhm.
and then the one parent turns the other one against the other parent, makes up all kinds of lies
Yeah.
and things like that. It's a whole syndrome out there. And the parent that loves these kids, their kids often have no contact. I mean, that's
Yeah.
got to be excruciating.
Yeah.
It really does.
That would just sort of tear your heart out. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
I love this thing. Tiffany, my 61-year-old brother. My brother is 61 years old, and even though he received his portion of my parents' estate, it wasn't enough when my father died and he had already received his portion. He won't
Okay.
speak to me. My parents had filled out their will a few years before they passed.
If I'm understanding that correctly, he got his portion before they passed, and so he didn't get anything when father died. Did you understand it like that?
I think that's the way I understood it as
So
well.
he expected to get more, even though he had received it prior. I think that's what she's saying. Um, and that it's not easy to be separated from family. There's no easy answer to that. But having said that, I think the key is to be true to yourself and to just keep sending love. And if you pray, then you can pray for that family member, or you can just send them energetic love for their healing, and continue to heal yourself. Because if you can heal and forgive them, for not knowing what they're doing, knowing that they're suffering, and have compassion, then who knows down the road what might happen. Things can turn
Yeah.
around. It just might not be as quickly as you'd like, right? I mean, we'd
Very
like it
true.
all to happen yesterday.
Yeah. Hello. I have this thing that I don't have patience anymore, so I was like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Tiffany said, yeah, correct. We did read it right that
Okay.
he wanted more. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh,
But the thing I just want to point out, if they had gone ahead and just given him more money to appease him, it wouldn't end there,
no,
right?
it
That would
wouldn't.
not end it. There would be something else that would happen later on that would become a problem and create separation. So as painful as that might be to put a boundary around not having a relationship with somebody who wants to abuse you in that way and take advantage, it's abusive if you stay. So it's a matter of which choice are you going to make. There's no right or wrong answer. It's what do you want to experience more? Staying in
Yeah.
relationship with somebody who's abusive, or being separated from them and possibly people that you love, like a grandchild. It's
Yeah,
a tough
exactly.
choice. It's not an easy
It
choice.
is.
Yeah,
It
they
is.
don't have logic. Absolutely.
Narcissists don't communicate with logic, only emotion and drama. The reason they don't hear what you're saying is because the conversation is not about them. They
Yeah.
drive you crazy if you let them. Go no contact or low contact to keep your emotional health. That's from Lynn McIntosh.
Absolutely. I totally agree, Lynn, because they will, like I said, use anything. The more you say, the more they will use against you. You just give them ammunition. And now sometimes, again, if you're dealing with co-parenting and you have a narcissistic ex, you don't have any choice but to have some communication around your children. But that's where I'm saying keep it factual. And even if they're going to start sending you all kinds of hate mail or whatever, you don't need to respond to everything somebody says to you, because that's part of the bait. If
Yeah.
they say, oh, it's your fault for this, or you're a terrible parent because of X, Y, or Z, you don't need to go back and say, I know I'm a good parent and it doesn't matter what. You don't need to respond to any of that. Just stick to, and if there's nothing in there that has to do with the kids that you need to respond legally or whatever, you don't even have to respond.
Yeah.
Right?
Deborah Joe says a second that he would fight over me with his wife in front of her granddaughter,
Yes.
and that's another reason she walked away. Ooh, let's see if I can do this one quick.
Yep,
Nuts.
that's there for the moment. There it is.
Didn't want my granddaughter exposed to what I know my son's temper to be.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what I mean by sometimes it's the most loving choice for those involved is to walk away, even if it is temporary, right? And when
Yeah.
she's old enough, I don't know how old, I think she said she was 3. When she's old enough, you'd be able to reach out and communicate and, let her know why you were absent. Because now
Yeah.
she
So
might
only
not,
to
you
keep
don't
that
have
door
that
open
option.
for her.
Exactly, exactly.
And trust me, children in the end do learn. I had a friend of mine, her and her husband separated, and he would call up his son and say, I'm coming over to pick you up this weekend. The young boy would sit by the front door with his backpack ready for his dad to come and get him. And the father wouldn't show. And
Yeah,
this happened for a long time, this young man's childhood. And she never spoke bad about the father.
yeah,
The mother
yeah,
never spoke bad about the father because
yes,
she knew that eventually this young man would see with his own eyes what
yes,
she knew. But
yes,
and this is where you said the parent alienation thing.
yes.
And eventually the young man did, and eventually the father sort of woke up when when his son became a father of his own, and he was like, no, you want to come over, fine, but just let me know I'm on my way now, but I'm not going to wait for you. If you say I'm going to be there at 2 o'clock and you're not here at 2:05 and I have things to do, I'm going to go and do what I got to
Yes.
do.
And that's a boundary. But the key there, though, is to create the boundary without anger. Like, is he able to do
Yeah.
that without the anger of, you're
Oh
not
yeah.
going to mess with me anymore? Then you've healed. Because some people will create a boundary, but it's more like, I'm drawing the line in the sand. You are not hurting me anymore, but you haven't
Yeah.
healed. So that's why check in with your own emotional, feelings. Like, check in with your feelings. How are you feeling when you're creating that boundary? If you're emotionally neutral, then you've healed. But if there's any kind of anger or resentment or any of that stuff, then it's not about judging yourself for that. Have compassion with yourself, right? Their feelings are there because you went through hell. They didn't just show
Yeah.
up for nothing. So be compassionate with yourself, but look at it take the time to heal from it so that it doesn't have the power over you. Because the thing that a lot of people don't understand is our unhealed wounds affect every part of our lives. I mean, they just, they talk about the baggage you carry, and a lot of it is unconscious. So we keep recreating the same patterns over and over in our lives that don't work, that causes pain and suffering. Sometimes people are like, I don't understand why this is happening. It's because there's all these
how many times
unconscious.
do you hear people?
Sorry,
how many times do you hear people say, "Oh my God, I keep attracting the same type of guy or same type of girl"?
Yes.
It's you haven't healed.
It's just a different face, but it's the same relationship.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, and that's again, you can look at that not to judge yourself and say, what's wrong with me? I keep attracting the same people that don't work. Look at it as a blessing when you notice it, because it's when you become aware of that pattern being repeated, that's when you want to celebrate and go, okay, now that I know this is happening all the time, let me take a look at what's going on that's causing me to keep attracting the same partner with a different face that doesn't work. And then you'll find yourself attracting somebody else that's completely different, that's going to meet you where you are now.
Exactly. Right? And the thing is, some people don't realize that they're doing it.
No. And that's why awareness is really, really key.
But, I changed the way I did this and the way I do that. Yeah, but like you said, they have to find the core, the base, what's the trigger. Yes. And some people, unfortunately, have a problem facing that trigger, maybe.
It is. It's not easy because there's a fear of getting stuck in the emotion of it. I know that was something I was terrified with when I first recognized in my early 20s that I was shut down, because I didn't even know, right? Like you said, I wasn't aware. And I first became aware when I went to actually see somebody at the university where I was, as some kind of a counselor. I don't even remember why I went, but I'll never forget this one question she asked me. She said, I was living with 2 roommates at the time. And she asked me a question. She said, so how do you feel about, and she mentioned the name of my roommate. And I was like, I have no clue, no clue how I felt about this person. And then she said, well, how do you feel about, and she named my other roommate. And I'm just kind of sitting there. Mm-hmm. And then I realized, oh my God, I have no idea how I feel about these 2 people. And then I thought, that's when I got how much I had shut my feelings off. And then I went in thinking, oh my God, I'll never be able to feel love for somebody. I'll never be able to feel loved by anybody. And if I don't do something about this, right?
Yeah.
So that was a really big clue for me. So when we check in with our feelings and what we're triggered by, we get to start. And once you become aware, that's when you can start making choices to move in at the direction you want to go. But without the awareness, you're stuck.
Yep. True. Very true. So for what you went through with your dad, mm-hmm. And by the way, everybody in the chat room who you sort of spoke to, not ad, have said thank you very much. They've agreed.
Yeah, thank you.
Because of everything you went through with your dad, this is what helped you to become the person that you are, doing what you do?
Absolutely. And that's the thing too, like every single one of us is who we are today because of every single experience we've had. Like if you take one experience out of my life, I wouldn't be who I am today. And, mm-hmm. I mean, we've all had our challenges and traumas. I mean, the childhood abuse was just kind of the beginning for me. I also, when I had a divorce, well, actually I was engaged once and the engagement fell apart 8 months before the wedding, after the dress was bought and the flowers were, so that was a whole other thing. And then I went through infertility, which isn't fun when all I wanted to be was a mother and then wasn't able to conceive. There's all kinds of things, right? I was in an emotionally abusive relationship after my divorce. And I was like, okay, but the gift that relationship gave me was I got so clear when I ended that one, because I lost myself again after all these years that I did work, all this healing work. And then I ended up in a relationship and I'm like, oh my God, that's not supposed to happen to me. That happens to other people. I've done all this work. I went from being like, an invisible child with no voice to feeling confident and had self-esteem. And then I lost it all in this short relationship. It's amazing. what what we can allow them to do to us, because I'm not going to victimize myself there. But when I became aware and I chose to end it, I was so clear at that point, and I made a declaration to the universe, and I said, I would rather be single and happy for the rest of my life than ever compromise who I am with anyone. Like, it was like, I really got, that I'm not going to deny who I am. And if somebody can't meet me where I am, no problem. And I had men later after that, when I wasn't dating for a long time, and I'd have male friends, and I'm like, what's wrong? Sometimes I think, like, why is it that, guys aren't interested in me, right? And they're like, because you're too intimidating. I'm like, seriously? I mean, I never saw myself as intimidating. Like, no, really. I was like totally dumbfounded. I'm like, intimidating. I'm like, so a confident woman intimidates a man. I'm like, well, screw that. I don't care then. I'll be single, because I thought if I intimidate people just by being me, and I wasn't like being overpowering or anything. I was just being confident,
Exactly.
And I'm like, if that's going to intimidate a guy, I don't want them. Like, I don't want to be with them. And so, the person I'm with now, it's like amazing, because we're soulmates. I mean, what can I say? He didn't have a problem with me at all.
He wasn't intimidated by you.
No, we're two individuals, and that's the thing. It's like, we're not codependent. We have a great relationship, but we have our own lives, and we support each other in being the best version of ourselves, and all of that. It's definitely possible, but I wasn't attached to it. I really got to a place where it was like, you know what? I can be happy and fulfilled and have an amazing life as a single woman. I knew that, but it took me a while to get there, because, when you're in that place of longing, and it's like, oh, but I really want to be in a relationship, and why am I alone, and blah, blah, blah. You have to kind of let yourself go through that too, if that's where you're at. It's part of the process, We have
a comment from Scott.
Yeah.
What if you are a typical male, and although you are a powerful empath, you have an emotional range of a wet lettuce? Lovely, Scott. It's a friend of mine. How do you go to find if you have the stuff to sort out, especially if you don't know if you have any stuff?
Okay, I think he's talking about his own emotional wounds, and it's interesting because I realized when I started talking about that experience, when I connected with not having any feelings, I was going to mention something else that completely left me until I saw that comment. So thanks, Scott. You just reminded me what I was really wanting to say initially. My biggest fear in looking and uncovering what had me shut down, I was terrified that I was going to connect with pain that was going to be so deep and so intense that I would become a complete basket case and not be able to function in society. That was my biggest fear. I thought, I'm not going to be able to work. I'm just, once I get to that place, I thought I was going to get stuck there and just, be like, just totally lose it emotionally. And the thing is to trust yourself and to not do it alone, because you need support. I mean, when doing it alone, you might get stuck there because you don't have somebody to help you see what you're processing, right?
Yeah.
So there's different ways of there's different ways to be able to uncover what's going on with you, and you just need somebody to help you with it, that can ask the questions, that can help you look a little deeper beneath the surface and see what's really going on. And the empaths, you can learn. You can still learn how to stand in your power and create boundaries and not allow the feelings and experiences of others to impact you to the degree that they might be now. Because it's difficult. I think I'm an empath too, but I've learned how to, it's not about not caring. Because see, that's the thing. Like, sometimes people think when you're standing in your power and you're not becoming that wet rag when something's going on, like you have no feelings, right? It's like, how can you hear this and not be sobbing, But that's, again, people make things up about stuff based on their own perceptions and their own reality and their own past experiences. But you can care very deeply for somebody who's expressing something very painful without getting lost in their pain. Because if you get lost in their pain, how do you help them with it if you're right in there with them, right? So it's important to be with somebody that can help you allow yourself to experience your feelings, because it's not about denying how you feel. If you need to go into the depths of that pain, you need to go there. I remember when I was going through the grieving of being infertile, for example. I mean, it was raw, like the core pain that I felt. Like I thought I would never stop crying, filling oceans. I mean, I just went through a lot of that because to have to let go of something that was so important to me that I had no control over was not easy. But I did get over it. But I would not have gotten over it if I didn't let myself feel the emotion of the loss of not having that. So it's important to feel what you feel and to go as deep as you need to go, because it's in the feeling of it that we release it.
Yeah, but I think he's not sure if he has anything to work on.
Well, if he ever feels angry, disappointed, hurt, dissatisfied with how people are around him, then there's something to work on. I mean, if you're totally like 100% happy, but genuinely not faking it, you know what I mean? Not pretending to be, because it's the way you're supposed to show up. If you never get triggered by anything, and a trigger can be something small, like even if you see something on the news, it could be triggered about a politician. Oh, that a-hole, how could they do that? I can't believe I can't believe they're doing it. Like if you get riled up about anything, there's something going on under there. Otherwise, you can watch it and be amused by it and say, wow, that's really interesting. But it doesn't, do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't get you.
Yeah.
So you can tell, it's just like, you know, when I used to talk about my childhood, like with my first few boyfriends or whatever, every time I talk about it, I'd start bawling. I mean, literally sobbing, just talking about it. You know, because I was so lonely and I had no friends. And I mean, I would just cry. I couldn't help myself. It was automatic. So I knew I healed when I could talk about it. Like it was not because I pushed the feelings down and didn't let myself feel, when there was no pain attached anymore. It was like, yeah, I had a pretty miserable childhood. A lot of people do. I'm just grateful I'm not stuck in it anymore, right? But I don't get emotional talking about it anymore, right? I don't get emotional talking about not having had children. Oh, that took me years. I was teaching at the time, and every teacher was getting pregnant and everyone's making jokes about it must be the water. And I'm in the bathroom bawling at recess because why is everybody else getting pregnant and I'm not, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't hold a baby for I don't know how long. I just couldn't, because the loss was too great. But when I knew I'd healed, when that wasn't an issue for me anymore. But I had to let myself feel the grief and the pain of it all in order to get to this place where, yeah, I can talk about it now and it's not painful.
Yeah.
So with Scott, if he can allow himself to just pay attention day to day, does anybody piss you off? Like, does anybody is there anybody in your life, a family member, a coworker, like I said, people on Facebook that you don't even know? Is there a post that gets you riled up? What's going on?
Anybody but me. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm allowed to get on.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's how you can see whether there's something. I think most of us have stuff. I don't know if I've met anybody that's that evolved that they don't have anything. Like, you know, I mean, hey, great. It's great if you do, but I haven't personally met anybody that doesn't get upset about anything. Like they're just totally okay, like with everything and everyone and with themselves and the world and the life and everything's fine.
Yeah. I love people who say, oh, I have no issues. And then you see them go on a rant about something,
Yes.
but but I have no issues about it. But I just went on like, you know, a 2-page rant on Facebook or,
exactly.
you know, like I have issues.
They're not aware.
Yeah.
They don't consider that an issue. In their view of the world, that's not an issue. That's a cause.
That's true.
You know, that's just, I feel passionate about it. It's not an issue. You can be passionate about something without anger, right?
Yeah.
You don't have
this
to.
person I have in my mind is actual anger. Yeah.
Yeah. And we can pick that up. We can tell when somebody's just really passionate about something and they're like excited about it. And they're like, you know, this is really important. And I'm all about, you know, cleaning up the environment. And I'm looking forward to when there's no plastics in the oceans and blah, blah, blah. And you can say that with like a lot of passion, or you can say, you know, these people that are drinking out of plastic water bottles, like when are they going to get it that they shouldn't be doing this? And that's issues. That there's stuff
Yeah.
going on under there that's causing you to feel that way. It's not the plastic
Exactly.
bottles.
Very, very
We
true.
like to make it about what's in front of us, and that's what I tell people. What we think we're upset about is never what you're really upset about. It's just the clue that helps give you a little bit of an indication that there's something to look at.
Exactly.
Okay, what's this
Scott,
person say?
lost, LOL. Can swear up and down the alphabet as a stupid driver, yet no increase in pulse rate. Emotional pain flashes and drains away.
At the drivers, yeah. Even when we get mad at drivers, like what's going on there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we're afraid of our own safety, right? That they might kill us or somebody else because of this cutting us off or whatever.
Yeah.
But if we're really connected with our inner truth, we can trust that we are not going to die at the hands of some idiot driver if it's not our time.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
if we really, really believe that, right? It all depends again on your beliefs.
Very true. Well, we're almost out of time. My gosh, an hour went by like this.
Fast. I was wondering how we were going to talk for a full hour, to be honest.
We had a conversation before we came on air, and I said my first show I did was 2 hours and couldn't figure out how I was going to talk for 2 hours, and it just flew by. We talk about something that's close and near to your heart, and people engage in the chat room. You've answered so many questions in the chat room, and even for those people who haven't asked the questions, me included, you've answered a few questions. So we're
Oh, that's great. I'm looking forward to reading the comments, and I'll go back also if anybody watches the replay and answer. I'll be able to answer questions after, right, in the chat?
Yeah,
I'll see
exactly.
them. Okay. So I'll go back in and answer questions.
And stalk the questions.
Or tag me. Can people tag me? Will I see it?
Only if you're friends with them.
Okay. Well, I'll just have to go and check a couple times and see if people have put questions in. Yeah.
Okay. Well, like I said, you do have a book out there, and I lost the page. Hold on a second. There we go. Magnify Your Magnificence. It's on Amazon. I found it. If I can find it, you can find it. And right now, the Kindle book is $3.33, and the paperback is $11.11. Now, those you know how we are with numbers, people. So go check them out. And I am going to get the paperback because I love to actually hold the book, not just hold my laptop. I'm going to get the paperback. I'm going to read it, and then we're going to get back and do this again.
Sure. Because the book, although it can help you with relationships, it's channeled messages that I received in this. I mentioned in the beginning how it came to be. It's quite an interesting story in itself. The introduction.
So stick around, people. We'll be back.
Excellent.
I will let you know.
Can I also invite people, if they have an interest in connecting with other men and women who are interested in creating boundaries and just improving their relationships with their family, I do have a private Facebook group that I can put the link in the comments, I guess, if people want to join.
I'll put it in the comment links, or perfect. You can put it in the comment links after, because I can heart people on this thing.
Right.
I can look, but it's like way too much to try and figure out, because I'll be sitting here.
No problem. I don't like doing anything on my phone, to be honest. I do it all on the computer. Maybe it's an age thing. I don't know.
No, because I can do it. Normally I can do it on the phone, but I'll push the voice one and just dictate it. And it just
there you go. That's easier.
Yeah, I'm good. I've got, but you have to make sure you enunciate your words, because sometimes the stuff that the automatic dictation writes, it's like, what the heck was that?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for being here. And like I said, once I get the book, I'll let you know. I'm not a quick reader, but I do, and I will have you back.
I'll look forward to that. And thanks for having me. And thanks everyone for your questions and your participation. That just makes it so much nicer to have conversation with more people.
Having eavesdropper drop in their little comments is always good.
Yeah, it is.
All right, everybody. I love you. Thank you very, very much for tuning in and chiming in. I will see you next week with, I can't remember who's my guest next week. Such a great hostess that I am. And we'll see you all very soon. Thank you, Marisa.
Okay, bye. Love and blessings.